What's going on, Straight Talk Faithful? Your host, George Mackay. I'm here again with another great episode on tap. This one is actually a first of first for me. This one I'm sitting down with a tag team, a great upcoming tag team in my opinion. I'm sitting down with Matt, Grant, and JT from Empire. How you guys doing?
What's up?
I'm good. Thank you guys so much for meeting with me via Skype. I appreciate it. I know the wrestling business is hard and schedules conflict, but I'm glad that we could sync up and get this interview in the books. Very excited about this one. You guys are actually, like I said in my intro, you guys are my first tag team that I'm interviewing together, so this is pretty cool.
Well, it's pretty cool to be doing it. So thank you very much for having us. I can speak personally and say that I've been really looking forward to doing this podcast. So thanks, man.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So the first question I always ask everybody, and I guess I'll direct it to Matt, you first, and then JT, you second, is defining moments. Everyone in the wrestling world, everyone that loves wrestling always has that moment where they remember where they fell in love with wrestling for the very first time. Do you guys remember your defining moments?
Not necessarily like a particular moment per se, but like when I was a kid, and like I said this so many times, but like I literally don't remember my life without professional wrestling. Like I remember watching it as the youngest I could possibly have a memory of. It's something that has always been in my life and connected to. So honestly, it's just been something that I've personally loved so much, and the fact that I'm even doing it as a somewhat profession is the coolest thing ever to me.
And what about you, JT?
Same here. I don't really remember like an actual defining moment. I was watching wrestling before Matthew was born. Like we're brothers. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but
I actually did not know that. So look at that, breaking news to me.
Only half brothers, but we've essentially been around each other our whole lives, or his whole life, and just growing up watching wrestling, it really at a young age really drew me to it, and from as far as I can remember, I've been hooked. So I don't know. There's no actual defining moment of it.
There's a thing too. It's like with JT and I being brothers, like we do have a third brother as well, and it's like I think there's never been the same connection between either me and him or David and him, JT and him, I should say. There's never been that actual connection like there has been between me and JT. JT and I just connect on this different level, especially when it comes to wrestling. So again, the fact that we've been able to become a tag team and do this is like the coolest thing to both of us.
So that's actually brings me to a question, because like I said, I haven't interviewed, again, you're my first tag team. So when you decide you want to train, did you guys decide right off the bat, we're going to be a tag team? Or was it just you did your training and then it kind of progressed into, you know what, we're pretty good each on our own, but when we're together, we can kick it into that next level?
For me, when I first started training personally, it wasn't even to be a wrestler. At the time I was, and I just finished up actually, I was reffing. So it was something where I kind of used the training to get better at reffing, positioning, and just the small little things you got to know as a ref. So when I first started training, that was my mentality. JT had the mentality of being a wrestler, because like you look at both of us and he's like jacked, and then you've got me who's like, a little puny. My mouth is a little more than what my muscle shows, but it's kind of a thing where as time went on, the opportunity got presented to me. JT and I were actually supposed to be in the same match as one another in our debuts, but it just happened to work out where he had like personal stuff going on at the time, not being able to be at training as much due to having like work and whatnot. And my schedule kind of got fast tracked to where I ended up debuting in like March of 2017, and he ended up debuting in the same year later on in July. So again, not exactly the plan of being a tag team, but as time went on, I had more of a mentality of being a wrestler, and he had that full mentality altogether. I'm sure he could kind of dive in on that at all as well.
Well, we've definitely dreamt of being tag team together. We've been to like Ring of Honor shows and stuff like that. We made a sign saying that we were going to be future Ring of Honor tag team champions and stuff like that. So like we've always had the mentality of tagging, but when we got into wrestling, it wasn't about that until like 8 months later.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, you look at the story too, and it's like, again, like JT was saying, like we've always wanted to be a tag team. It's just, I think I kind of had the mentality of like, oh, I'm too small to do this. Like I think any 5'7", 150-pound person will have that same mentality. But it's like you got to follow your dreams and take a bet on yourself.
Well, and I think you guys are doing that. I mean, I've had the honor of now seeing you guys, and I do say honor because it's not easy to do what you guys do, but I've had the honor of seeing you two tear it up, I want to say 5 or 6 times now. And it's always been against the Dirty Vets. Most recently, it was against Young Love there last weekend at Crossbody. And relatively easy victory for you guys, considering that they're still up and coming, where you've been tagging now for about 8 months, 9 months, or close to maybe a year and a half. And they're still kind of getting the ropes. But you can see it in your, especially in your matches with Dirty Vets, because they have literally been around for a very long time. They are vets. You guys are at the same caliber. It's just, you got to punch through that ceiling. And I got to be honest, I can't wait for October because you guys are getting that one final shot. And I'm hoping the Cinderella story comes true. And I'm going to be doing commentating that night for that show. So I can't wait to say, kind of JR cliche, the boyhood dreams have come true. You know what I mean? When you guys hold those belts up for the first time. So, but I gotta say that
you're not jinxing us here, and hopefully that actually goes to plan.
I don't think I am. I hope not. JT, do you think I'm jinxing you? I don't think I am.
It's a possibility. If it doesn't happen, then I think I'm going to blame you, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then this last 2 minutes of the podcast, this is great because the last 2 minutes of this podcast, I can edit completely out. So I don't have to worry about that. It was never said. It's perfect. No, but seriously, I mean, back to the kind of storyline and the rivalry that you guys have had with the Dirty Vets. I mean, there's nowhere else you can go. This story, unfortunately, whether good or bad, it has to really end in October. And are you prepared for the next challenge? If it does go the way you hope it does, or if it doesn't, because we all have to be realistic. If it doesn't go the way you expected, what is the next kind of chapter at Crossbody anyways for Empire?
It's kind of interesting because like the story with the Dirty Vets doesn't even just start at Crossbody. I mean,
enlighten me because that's where I kind of learned about. That's where I kind of got entwined with the story. So enlighten me. Where does the history with this rivalry begin? Because it really is, as far as I'm concerned, one of my personal favorite rivalries in indie wrestling today. Because you don't really get those rivalries too often because it's hard to kind of people to fill in where things are happening. So enlighten me on the history with the Dirty Vets.
So JT and I had the podcast, Weekly Wrestling Podcast, going for several years, and throughout doing the podcast, we were up in Barrie. Before Barrie Wrestling, it was Power Slam Wrestling Extreme (PWE), and that's where we first met the Dirty Vets, Tid and Custom. I mean, we've known those guys since pretty much our start in wrestling, so it's really cool being able to kind of grow ourselves into this point where we're actually being able to hang with a team like the Dirty Vets. Those guys have been everywhere. They've won so much tag gold. They've hung in the ring with some of the best names there is. And it's like the fact that we're even being considered for a position against those guys is awesome. I remember finding out in January that we were getting the match against them. And it was JT and I looked at each other. We're like, this is cool. Like, this is a dream come true, realistically, because like that's one of the teams we thought we'd never face. We never thought we'd be in a ring, but once it started, it was like, man, that's a team that we'll never face. We'll never be on that caliber. And it's like the fact that we're even put in the same sentence as Notorious TID and Custom Ryan, it blows my mind. But getting back to the rivalry itself, it's like we've had 1, 2, 3, 4 matches against them, I think, at this point. And they're literally some of our best matches. I hate those guys right now, but they bring out the best in us, man. I think October the 5th is going to be probably the toughest challenge we have to date. We're putting our careers on the line in Crossbody. And for those who weren't there this past Saturday, if we don't win that match, not only are we done in Crossbody, we are literally going back to step one and we have to be referees again. So it's like we're putting it all out there, man. Hopefully fate has our back that day and we're able to become tag team champions. But if not, we put it all on the line.
Yeah, it's essentially all or nothing for us. For that.
So, in terms of tag team wrestling, because I'm a big fan of tag team wrestling, I love tag team wrestling. It's one of my favorite staples in the wrestling business. Some of my favorite tag teams of recent would be, I'm a big fan of Dash and Dawson. I love those guys. I'm a big fan of the Usos. You can't get enough of the high flying there. If I were to go classic and old school, I'd probably have to say, you got Money Inc., you've got the Natural Disasters. I mean, the list goes on and on. I'm trying to name a lot of tag teams, even the Mega Powers at one point. Tag team wrestling kind of was a staple in the 80s and the 90s for a little bit. But then once the Attitude Era came, it's not to be cliche, it kind of fell flat until about 2 years or 3 years into the Attitude Era. Then we got the resurgence with the Dudleys, Edge and Christian, and the Hardys. But then again, in the early 2000s, it kind of took a nosedive. Now we're starting to see tag team wrestling come to the mainstream with guys like The New Day, like I said, Dash and Dawson. So where do you guys stand on tag team wrestling as it is now? Do you see a resurgence? Do you see it becoming more popular than it's ever been now at this point? Because I do, just based on what I'm watching and all the platforms that I do watch, from New Japan to Ring of Honor to Impact to even AEW, like those tag team matches with the Young Bucks and the Lucha Bros. That was, I don't know if you guys had a chance to see it, but that was a stellar tag team match, probably one of my favorite tag team matches of this year, and we've still got 4 months left of the year. So where do you guys stand on the kind of, cliche to say, but people are saying the tag team is kind of resurging back to the forefront of pro wrestling?
The way I see it, like when you're saying that back in the day it was good and then it fell off, and then the way I see it is people started being more greedy and like selfish, so they wanted their own spotlight and didn't want to be in a tag team. It wasn't until like you have no other choice but you team up. And the same thing, like with New Day, they couldn't really do much by themselves, so they decided to go together, and now they're like one of the biggest things in WWE. There's so many people now in wrestling. The singles scene is pretty hot, and you have to be a certain person to be able to fit in and by yourself nowadays, it seems like. So getting into a tag team, everybody sees the Young Bucks, like you said, and all these tag teams that are pretty big right now. It's a pretty good scene. So I do think that it's going to start picking up again if it already hasn't.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing too is like you got to look back at the Ontario scene. Like you've got two big names right now on the scene that are picked up by big companies. You've got the Impact Tag Team Champions, the North, Ethan Page, Josh Alexander. You've got AEW's probably one of their top tag teams they've got going right now, the Dark Order, Evil Uno and Stu Grayson. I mean, you look at that, and that's just inspiring on its own. I think tag team wrestling is alive and well. I think tag team wrestling is probably the best it's ever been. You've got tag team wrestling main eventing shows more often than not now, which is really cool. I personally love tag team wrestling more than any type of wrestling, and that sounds insane, but it's just there's something about a tag team match that just, man, if it's done right, it is a thing of beauty. I think back to like the Revival versus DIY from NXT Takeover.
Yes.
So good, man. Like being in the crowd for that was probably one of the most inspiring things you could possibly be in the crowd for. I mean, I've been wrestling for quite a bit too, so getting a chance to share the ring this past weekend at Alpha One with the Impact Tag Team Champions, the North, it's like to see how far those guys have come. It's crazy to see the tag team scene right now. It's really inspiring again to see like guys that have come from our area that are doing it right.
So, in terms of tag team matches, all-time favorites. I mean, you mentioned Revival versus DIY, which was an absolute barn burner. It's still one of my all-time favorites. But what's your guys' all-time favorite? JT, you first. If you could think back to a really just amazing tag team match, doesn't matter if it was indie, doesn't matter if it was WWE, Ring of Honor, I don't care. Just give me one of your all-time favorite tag team matches.
I would have to say the TLC matches with like the Hardys, Dudleys, and Edge and Christian for sure. The amount of stuff that they were doing in those matches, and just the amount of things that they're willing to put their bodies through to put a good show out for them, and like the amount of intriguing things they got done in those TLC matches. It's just inspiring for us. Like when we go, eventually we already had a ladder match against each other, and the amount of things that we were thinking of doing, and like eventually when we get another ladder match as a tag team, like we'll definitely be looking into stuff like that in order to.
It's so crazy just to bring that ladder match up, because like we were afforded that opportunity so early on in our career. So like the fact that like we're a tag team now. We've come like so far since then. I can only imagine the things we'd be able to do.
Dangerous things? Like, would you say that it's things that would literally be a whole bunch of oh my god moments, or stuff that would be done still kind of on the edge but safely?
Oh no, 100% dangerous. That's like me in a nutshell. I've got my stupid stuff in my mouth. That's all I've got.
JT, can I ask you a question? Do you ever get tired of having to back up Matt when his mouth writes checks that he himself can't cash?
Well, he's pretty wildy himself, so sometimes he can back up things that he says. But no, I don't mind backing him up when he needs it.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's brotherly love, right? And you're the older brother, so you've got to protect him.
I'm a Chihuahua. He's like the Doberman or like the German Shepherd or something. I don't know, some big dog that's not me.
No. Listen, JT is straight pit bull, and you're not a Chihuahua. I put you more as like a Yorkie.
Oh, that's not too bad. That's decent. Even my girlfriend got a good pop out of that one.
All right, so guys, tell me about... I'm a big fan of comic books. I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you've listened to the show, but I'm a big fan of comic books. And one of my favorite comic book series was a series that ran in the 80s and the 90s. It was called What If? It was basically a series of comic books where if things didn't happen, what if? If Daredevil didn't go blind? If the Punisher's family was never killed? If Peter Parker never got bit by the spider? Do you kind of see where I'm going?
Yep.
So let's go with a little bit of what if. I want to paint a picture. What if one day you two are at the height of your tag team career? You both, share a house together. Your girlfriends are there. You decide to go downstairs. You chill out in your backyard with your pool. There's a nice, Keurig coffee machine there. You both pour yourself a hot cup of coffee. And you sit down outside staring at the beautiful sun, we'll say in Malibu, just because I'm trying to paint the scene. And in front of you lay 5 contracts. Each contract is for the same amount of dates, the same amount of money. And the contracts are to WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan, and Impact Wrestling. And the only reason I mentioned those 5 exclusively is because those are the 5 I literally follow through and through to the T. Okay? Which one would you choose? And which tag team would you decide to run your first, kind of rivalry with? And would it be 3 straight matches of just great tag team wrestling, old school, cutting the ring off, breaking down your opponent, a little bit of high flying, the high spots, the low spots, the outside the ring spots, all that kind of stuff? Or would it be just stipulation upon stipulation upon stipulation till you literally got to the last possible stipulation you could?
I 100% need a couple seconds to think about this, so JT, go first.
Even though I don't really see it happening, if I had the choice, WWE would be the place to go. Obviously NXT first, and for a feud of some sort, say it's like now, obviously, because if that ever has a chance to happen, it will be years down the road, so these people probably won't even be in NXT, but I'd say Red Dragon or like Undisputed Era, Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly would definitely be a good team to feud with. Simple tag team matches are good, but like stipulation matches, steel cage, whatever, hardcore matches, something like that would definitely be more my thought process than, even though having 3 good matches with them 2 would be amazing. But that's essentially that.
I like your answer, JT. Now that Matt's had his few seconds, come on there, big mouth. You gotta put up the pay.
Shit, I gotta write some more checks that my mouth can't cash. No. I gotta be honest, man. Like, this is a tough one. I was not anticipating this.
Okay, do you want me to narrow it down to 3? Should I take away 2?
I selfishly say AEW.
Okay.
And I say that because, I don't know, man. Like, I watch WWE and, like, I get it. That's, like, the childhood dream. That's, like, the quote-unquote be-all, end-all, whatever you want to call it. But it's just, like, I see how many times people go there and get misused or just not used at all. And it's like, I would be so... Can I swear?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would be so fucking miserable not wrestling. Like, if I go a weekend without wrestling, I am the most miserable goddamn person there is. So, just like processing that, I think I'd want to pick AEW. Just in that sense. I mean, I think they're going to use a lot of their talent really well. They've got a fantastic tag team division that they seem to be focusing on so much. Selfishly, again, I'd probably pick the Young Bucks to have a program with, or the Dark Order. I think both of those teams are at the top of their caliber, and that's nothing against any of the other teams that are in AEW or in pro wrestling at all, but it's just like those two teams stick out. I think I'd be a little different from JT, where I'd want like probably like two normal matches where we go back and forth, like the one match we win, the second match they win, the third match we have a stipulation match. Like I think that's the way I'd want it to go, just to build it up properly, like a story. I wouldn't be against doing full stipulation matches, because at the end of the day, like they're, I guess, a little easier, if that makes sense. But I'd want to do like the 3-match series, the classic 3-match series where you have the back and forth and then you have the big blow off at the end.
Very cool. I actually like both answers, gentlemen. I have to appreciate both answers for what they are. I do want to get back to one interesting question, though, Matt. You mentioned that you recently shared the ring with the Impact Tag Team Champions at Alpha One there, and you were reffing. Is it hard to go from wrestler back to ref? And JT, I'm not sure if you're still reffing as well on the side, but is it hard to transition from wrestling one day and then reffing the next day when you still have that twinkle in your eye, or you're kind of watching the match and you're supposed to be doing your job, but then you're like, fuck, man, right now it's wide open. I mean, I could just hit that top corner and I could just do a coup de grace right there and I can end this whole thing. Is it hard to kind of turn it off?
It's so crazy that you say that, because like you say, like doing one thing one day and then doing the other day. I literally had a couple of shows towards the end of my run where like I was doing both in the same day. Like the same day I wrestled Kingdom James for New School Wrestling, like 2 hours later I was suiting up as a ref. And there was a lot of guys that were looking at me in the back that were like, I guess not the biggest fans of what I was doing, because I guess I was proverbially kind of shitting on wrestling by like wrestling 2 hours earlier and then going out as a ref and whatever the case may be. But it's like, for my thought process the whole time, it was like I was getting bookings doing both. Everybody was like supporting me doing both. So like that was okay. But again, to go back to the question, it's like I didn't really have an issue separating both. I found that like being a ref improved myself as a wrestler. Again, going back to the positioning and all that stuff, like I don't think I'd be half as good as I am wrestling if I didn't do the reffing stuff before.
And JT, what about you? Do you still ref as well, or?
Oh, I haven't ref for a good year and a half now, I think. And it was just the beginning, essentially, of my wrestling career that I was reffing. So I wasn't into it as much as I was now. And again, like you said before, not wrestling a weekend, it's a bummer and stuff like that. So like, I never had that issue because I wasn't wrestling as much, so there wasn't that difficulty going back and forth. Because I'd ref, like there'd be a good weekend or two in between of like reffing and wrestling, so it wasn't the smooth transition that like Matt's had to do sometimes.
And in terms of your wrestling styles, both of you, we tell, Matt, again, every tag team, you guys kind of fit the mold perfectly. One is the mouthpiece with the occasional firecracker, and the other one is the big, brute, strong, silent, and carries a big stick. But you guys mesh very well. And obviously, brotherhood, growing up, stuff like that, it kind of helps transcend. But, going back to the days, because I didn't have a brother. I had 2 sisters. They annoyed the crap out of me. I used to break their Barbie dolls. They used to steal G.I. Joe to marry Barbie. It was a big whole fiasco. One time they stole a Thundercat. I lost my shit. But in terms of having brothers, like when you guys were younger, did you butt heads a lot? Was there a lot of throwdowns and kind of reenactments of whatever you maybe saw on TV? Or was it just, we're brothers, that's it, that's who we are, with Pack for life, I love him, he loves me, I'm going to have his back no matter what?
To be honest,
nobody picks up my brother but me.
To be honest, I feel like I had more issues with our other brother than I did. I can't really recall too many actual incidents with Matt. But
legit, like, again, going back to what I said, like, we had that connection. JT and I had that connection of like wrestling, and there wasn't really any sort of like ill will towards each other. The only thing I can ever think of is like the whole styrofoam belt thing and like beating the crap out of each other.
play wrestling essentially, and just we hung up a styrofoam belt and our fan light, and it was touching the light bulb and ended up melting it.
Oh, okay, so you better have been careful with that one then, I guess, eh?
We were having ladder matches before they were cool.
Oh, okay, so you guys were the innovator of like the indie ladder match. They were ladder matches before they became so hyped up, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of, I guess, other influences for you guys, I mean, tag teams are great, but you know, you have your own kind of gimmicks and characters that flow with the tag team. I mean, Matt, you're the undeniable Matt Grant. JT, you're the the reject. So where did these monikers and names kind of come from, and who do you kind of, I guess you say, your own personal influences in the ring, like who you aspire to be or who inspired you?
I guess for me personally, I got to give credit where credit is due. When I first started, I was talking a lot with Death Proof founder Warhead about kind of like what to exactly do with a name, because like when I first started, man, I had like no clue how things were working out. So like I didn't know whether I wanted a shoot name, a gimmick name, whatever. And for those that don't know, Matthew Grant is my real name. I go by that because it's just, I don't know, man. I find it super complicated to go by a gimmick name, but to each their own, I suppose. The undeniable thing came again from Warhead. He had pitched something to do with an underdog, and I was like, I kind of want this cool little like ring to it. So I wanted something that started with a U, so it would go like it would flow really nicely. And I was like, looked up some stuff on the internet. I was like, undeniable. That sounds good. Nobody's using that. Undeniable underdog. That sounds really good. So when I first started my Death Proof run, when I was Youngblood champion, I was known as the undeniable underdog. And as time went on, I was like, I'm winning a lot of matches.
Better to be an underdog if you're winning. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I don't think the underdog thing's really working out for me anymore. So I kind of just took the underdog away, and I'm straight undeniable now. And as soon as I did that, you had somebody by the name of Tess Blanchard going on TV and flaunting that nickname. So I'm like, why'd you have to do that to me? But I'm sticking to it. I'm not leaving that nickname by its wayside. I'm undeniable, and I did it before Tessa did.
There we go. Straight Talk exclusive right there. Matt Grant just broke it. JT, what about you, buddy?
I've never really liked my first name, and my last name's just a little weird. I wanted initials. I didn't want a name like that. So like I was going to go with like my first middle initial or like something like that. I was going to do like JD or DJ, but like it didn't really, like DJ didn't really flow. Yes, there was DJ Z, and like, but I didn't want to be an actual like DJ. Mm-hmm. So like I felt like that would have been too much
DJ, and for some reason I went immediately to DJ Gabriel.
I was actually going to say DJ Tanner from Full House. That's where my mind was going right away.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Funny tidbit is when I was born, they were supposed to call me DJ because of that show, and my parents never called me DJ. Like my first and middle name are just fit-ins to suit up the DJ name, but I've never been called DJ.
Oh, okay, well that's good.
Yeah, I thought it would have been too much of a gimmick thing, so I was like, okay, I'll do this. And then I was thinking either TJ or JT, and I just went with JT because, I don't know, that's the one I decided on. And Kirk is just, like, shortened my last name, so it just flows like that.
Mm-hmm. And what about the reject? Where did that come from?
That one was a tough one. I went for a good, 2 weeks trying to figure out a nickname. And at one point, I wanted to be I'm a New Jersey Devils fan. I don't really pay attention to it since I've been wrestling now. It's just wrestling consumes my life, so it's just the way it is. I have a tattoo for them. So I wanted to be called like Devil something or something along the lines of towards that. So I was thinking Devil's Reject. And then I went on the internet and found out there was a dude already named the Devil's Reject. So I was like, I can't do that. And then we were watching something. I can't remember who it was, but there was a tag team called The Rejects. I was like, that wouldn't be too bad. I can be the reject, JT Kirk. And I told Matt kind of just chuckled, and I was like, that actually sounds really good. I had been advised to maybe add something to it, not just be just the reject, like how Matt was the undeniable underdog. I was advised to do the something reject, but I haven't got around to that yet, and I don't know if I am. But
I like the the reject JT Kirk. I think it rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, it kind of just fits who I am as a person and who I am. Well, my personality flows with my character a little bit, so like it just fit.
With like the whole reject thing, JT's failing to mention this, but he ended up going up to Iowa for a revolver seminar, and it was actually Jimmy Jacobs who was giving them that advice about, changing his name and adding something to it. I think when he told me it, like again, like you were saying, George, it runs right off the tongue, so it's like you can't really complain. And I think at the end of the day, it suits who he is. I know a lot of his influences kind of inspired that nickname as well, which I'm sure he can get into. But it's like, I think there hasn't been really anything that's flowed better with him than that whole nickname and that whole character.
No, I think the way both of you guys mesh, and this is kind of one of the reasons why I had to watch a couple shows. I had to really see it, because with me, I don't just bring anybody on the show. I don't just try to fill episodes. I've been very blessed early on in my, you guys are actually officially episode 98, so I'm closing in on my 100, and I've already got my 100 locked in the can. And I want to tell you who it is, but I'm not going to. You're going to have to listen. I'm not going to tell you who the 100 is, but you guys are episode 98. But, I mean, I love to scout the talent that I'm interviewing. I like to get to know them, do my research, so I can go into things. I'm not just one of those podcasters who's like, hey, let's start a podcast, do it. No, I want to do my research, and I want to go in, I want to scout the talent, and I want to know that they're going to be somebody that I want to showcase on the show and somebody that I want to enjoy having a conversation with. And I can tell 32 minutes into this one, I'm having a blast, and I hope you guys are having the same thing too, because I feel like we can
Genuinely, I've looked at my girlfriend multiple times and been like, man, like this guy knows his shit, and it's really refreshing, because like I've done several interviews where it's like you get those generic questions of like, how did you start wrestling? And I get it, like you did ask that, but it's like you also have expanded and you've also gone in and you know what we're doing, and it's super cool that somebody's actually taken the time to do that, because as former podcasters ourselves, it's like, hey man, like we can appreciate you put it in that work.
Yeah, and I appreciate that too. I mean, it took a little bit of time. Our schedules kind of didn't sync up, but we're here now and we're doing it, and I'm having a great time. But one other question I do always want to shed the light on, because, like I said, I'm a big fan of tag team wrestling. When you guys are in the ring and you're having your matches and you're doing your communication, you're doing everything a tag team should be doing, and you've got the classic guys that kind of cut the ring off and they kind of break the one person away. You guys, though, I find, don't really do that. You guys do a lot of, tag team moves. You guys do a lot of multiples and stuff like that. Do a lot of high flying and stuff like that. But I've never really seen it cutting off, because there's the brute strength from JT, and then there's the high flying and the fast pacedness. Well, both of you have incredible speed. You do. But are you fans of like the classic cutting the ring off, or do you prefer to do kind of the out there crazy fast paced stuff?
I like being flashy. I think, and this isn't to toot our own horns, because I mean we've stolen a lot of our moves from like UK scene and stuff like that. So like, again, not taking credit for these moves whatsoever, but I think in terms of Ontario, like we have some of the best tag moves possible. We do like tandem code breaker. We do a wheelbarrow facebuster code breaker combo. We've got that sweet corner combo with the Miz line, the knees, and the drop kick. We've got a Tower of London double stop. Like there's so many different cool things that we do as a team that we've kind of like picked apart from certain other teams and made it our own. And it's like, I think we enjoy doing the flashy stuff. We enjoy kind of standing out amongst the bunch. Again, that's nothing against the classic tag team stuff, because like it's so cool to watch that stuff go down. Again, you mentioned the Revival multiple times. Those guys are classic guys.
That's tag team 101, man. That's tag team 101.
Yeah, so it's like we love that stuff, but I think we just enjoy being flashy. I don't know about you, JT, but that's personally my perspective.
Well, yeah, cutting off the ring, it works, it's effective, but if you can beat up a guy with a bunch of moves, then he's not going to be tagging anytime soon anyway. And
that's a fair point.
Yeah, flashy stuff is really good, and like you said, we have all these tag moves that we're doing, and over the last like month or so, we've tried to or started to thinking about adapting new moves into it and stuff like that.
We're always looking back, and we're always trying to improve ourselves, and whether that's like watching our own matches back and kind of picking things apart, or watching other tag team matches being like, ooh, that'd be kind of cool. Could we do that? Yeah. Could we do that?
Our mind is constantly moving, and like every time we watch wrestling, Like, I can be randomly driving with my girlfriend and be like, something just pops in my head, be like, ooh, I should do this move. Or if I, like, I'll just randomly remember a move that I've seen and, like, ooh, how can I do it like this? Because all my moves are face busters. So, like, I'll see a move, be like, ooh, how can I switch that to a face buster? Or I'll see intriguing face buster style moves and be like, ooh, maybe I should do that. And we, like, added them into, made them in, some of them into tag moves.
And anybody who's listening to this, I really, really want you to encourage, instead of calling JT the reject, call him the Messiah, the facebuster, because, like, realistically, like, that's what it should be. And I've been trying to say that for quite some time, but he won't go for it.
I tried it at one time. I did a hashtag on Twitter about it, but it never caught on. So,
so you just dropped it. The Twitter burst was like, sorry, Matt, we're not buying it. We're sticking with the reject. I get it. I get it. Matt, you know what? It's fine. You can be upset after, but we're still in the interview. So let's just focus. We're at the home stretch here, okay? Come on. You got to focus now. So one other thing I love, have you guys done any stipulation matches that you have? I mean, you mentioned ladder matches and stuff like that, but tag team style. Have you done any stipulation matches tag team? And if you have, what are your favorites? If you haven't, what would be one match you would love to do?
Yeah, we haven't really done any stipulation matches other than maybe, like, we've done a couple, like, no disqualification matches, but definitely the one I'd say would be the kendo stick on a pole match because, well, I love my kendo stick and I'm a big fan of TNA, like their old style, like, matches, and they always did pole stuff on a pole matches. So, like, I talked to a third promoter and was like, is there any way we can work in a kendo stick on a pole match sometime? And it never happened, but randomly it came out at HPW that we were doing a kendo stick on the pole match. I was so happy about that.
We did the unsanctioned match. I remember too, just like a couple weeks ago. We've done a couple no disqualification matches, that kendo stick on a pole match. The big thing that really stands out for me, and I know technically we weren't in it together, but like I did the cage match back about a year ago for Pro Wrestling Ontario, and that's where Empire started in PWO, and that's something I've always wanted to kind of go back to as a tag team, especially because, I mean, with that match, I think there was too much of a story to tell, so there wasn't exactly a lot we could have done. But I think when and if the opportunity pops up with JT and I getting to do another cage match, I think we'd go balls to the walls, and I think we'd be able to do a lot more than I was able to do in that first match. A ladder match, obviously. I think anybody that's a tag team wants to be in a ladder match, just to kind of throw back to those classic Edge and Christian, Dudley Boys, Hardy Boys tag team matches. It's not really anything else that stands out to me. I mean, I love to do a TLC match, but no, like in terms of the matches we've been able to do, I was really proud of that kendo stick on a pole match with Tyler Arrow and Tantrum. I think Tyler Arrow is one of those guys that gets it. There's not many that do, that are up and coming, and again, that's not knocking on anybody. It's just there's some people that get it and there's some people that don't. And Arrow and I told an incredible story that night with the help of Tantrum and JT, and I think going forward, we're going to play off of that quite a bit. We've got a couple of matches with them coming up.
All right, so before I ask my final question of the night, since we have a chance, this episode, like I said, is going to air this Friday, the 23rd. But is there any other shows upcoming after the 23rd that you want to shout out so the listeners can know where they can find you, look you up, maybe see you in person?
Well, I know if it's airing Friday, it doesn't matter. But this Friday, I will be in Kitchener for Crossbody, their showcase show number. I'm not sure what number it's on, but this weekend we're in London for Taco Fest for Crossbody as well.
Tacos and wrestling. It doesn't get much better than that.
No, it doesn't. No. And anything else after that? Like anything coming up in September or close to the October 5th show?
Yeah, we've got HPW just announced that we're going to be competing in a triple threat tag team match for the HPW tag team titles. So we're going to be taking on Jake Jones and Tyler Arrow, as well as the current champions Raunchy Nuts. So That one's been building up for about a year now. We stepped away from HPW last year when they crowned their first champions with the thought process of, hey, we don't need to prove ourselves to be tag team champions. So we stepped away and we came back in February with the goal of becoming tag team champions, proving to HPW that we can go through any tag team possible to be tag team champions. So that's coming up on September the 7th. The following weekend on the 15th, we defend our Courage Pro Wrestling Tag Team titles for the first time. We were crowned champions, I guess, technically back in July, but we don't get the championships till the 15th of September. And we will be defending those titles against the team of Mike Forte and Tyler Arrow. Again, a little bit of a trend here. Arrow seemed to continue to get his head involved to our business. So I guess 2 weeks in a row, we're going to have to kick his ass.
Nice. I like it. That's Tyler Arrow. Are you listening? If you're not listening, you should probably listen because there's like a bounty on your head right now. I feel like it's Grand Theft Auto. I feel like there's a serious bounty going on right now. And my final question of the day for you gentlemen, and then we'll let you enjoy your evening. Dream matches. Everybody's got them. If you want, I can tell you mine, and then you guys can tell me yours. But any team...
I'm actually kind of curious. What do you got in mind?
Oh, my dream match? Oh, all right. Here we go. Here's the build-up. Sting. But Sting, Crow Sting. Okay, I'm a big Sting fan, but Crow Sting. Coming down from the rafters, we're talking time period 96, 97. He's taking that year off. He comes back at Starrcade to face Hulk Hogan. And just as he's about to win the title, out comes this young buck in just a white face. Comes out, beats the crap out of him. Turns around and grabs a mic and says, "You're faded out because the ghost is here." Then the lights go black and I disappear. We end up having one match only in a graveyard. Nobody gets buried alive. You just literally tear the shit out of each other in a graveyard. The only way to win is to knock the other dude out with a...
Get buried alive?
No, nobody gets buried alive. The only way to win is to hit the guy over the head with a shovel, shove him inside a hearse, and he has to drive out of the cemetery. That's my ultimate dream match. We're talking tombstones, trees, whatever I can find on the ground.
Well, I'm a big Undertaker fan, so that sounds like a great match.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I put a lot of thought into that. I did. I put a lot of thought and effort into that. So now that I have outlaid my dream match, gentlemen, what is your dream match? This could be a tag team, could be a single wrestler, any time period, any wrestler living or dead. Let's go with JT first.
Just because I am a big Undertaker fan, and I would like to do a tag match, Undertaker and Kane would definitely be a good dream match for Empire. I don't know what time period.
I'm not gonna lie. I was definitely expecting to be like, selfishly, I want the Undertaker by myself. But the fact that you actually included me with that, I can tip my hat to.
So Brotherhood of Destructions, let's not say the recent return of the Brotherhood because that was not a good return. We all saw that horrible match at Crown Jewel. It was god-awful. They all should have stopped wrestling years ago. Let's say Brotherhood of Destruction 1999-ish, 2001-ish. How's that sound for you, JT? That's about the right time period?
Maybe even a little later. The Badass Taker and Kane time period.
Okay, nice.
That's about that time period, I'd say.
Yeah, I like that time. I'm good with that time period. And Matt, what about you? What's your ultimate dream match?
Oh, now he put me on the spot because he picked a tag team match and
I gave JT the option first because I knew he would answer right away because he's already thinking of his answers. You need a few seconds. I gave you a few seconds, man. I gave you.
I was like, selfishly, I wanted to pick a singles match, but now I can't even do that.
You can't do that because then that just sullies what JT did, and that's not cool to him, man. I got to be honest with you. Steadily, JT's becoming my favorite member of Empire. Just gonna say that.
If I had to be honest, it's got to be I want to say maybe Edge and Christian. I also Steed and Generico pop in mind too because those two are incredible, and when it comes to the independent level, I think those two guys are two guys we really, really look up to. He brought up Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish earlier. I think those guys are phenomenal. There's just so many. If I have to stick to one, it's got to be Edge and Christian. Those guys are phenomenal. I'd probably say TLC era Edge and Christian.
Nice.
If there's another one, I know you were talking about earlier where tag team wrestling kind of died down in the late 2000s, but for some reason the big one that's popping in my head is Rated RKO. And I don't know why that is, but Edge and Randy Orton during that whole time period would be so much fun.
Yeah, that's when Edge unfortunately got injured, and I think Randy was in a stint or two of rehab at that point. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know he did have his battles with addiction for sure. So, yeah, you know what? Actually, that wouldn't be bad. But again, you see right there, like that's a time period we're talking about, right, where it wasn't about teams that meshed together. It was just like, we're not doing anything we're not doing anything with you. Let's put you together as a tag team. And I get it. You both kind of came from kind of tag team backgrounds because when Randy Orton started, he was teaming with Batista when they were part of Evolution. And then you had, Edge, obviously, with Christian. There's a bona fide tag team right there. But I always feel like tag teams should be developed and encouraged, like the Usos, like Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, like, DIY for a minute because they were, but like Authors of Pain, anybody kind of coming up through the system now, you could see that it's meshes if they've always kind of been together because they're fluid. They can feel each other. They can already know what each other's doing. Sometimes they don't even talk in the ring because they know exactly what they're doing. And that's the kind of part of tag team wrestling that I love. And I love that it's coming back to the fold because they're not just sticking guys together anymore. They're actually developing teams together, which is quite refreshing because it's been a long time coming that I think tag team deserve to be at the forefront. And it's nice to see that. It's nice to see that across all the platforms. And it's something that I think will pay off in the eventual run. Plus, I see a lot of factions coming back, which is great. Love when you see all the factions coming out together, right? Like you got OVE out in Impact, stuff like that. Like it's a great time right now for all the cool things that are doing with wrestling. And despite what anybody says, if there's an impending Monday Night War happening or a Wednesday Night War with whatever AEW and WWE got going on, who cares? Just right now, it's a great time to be a wrestling fan again. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I couldn't agree more.
I don't want to
agree more.
I don't want to push down like the thrown together teams too much because like there has been some thrown together teams that just like go on to be amazing. Like New Age Outlaws for one, they were just thrown together. They weren't supposed to be a long time team, and then they just clicked. It seemed like so like there are those
and a team we brought up so many times already. Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. Those guys literally got thrown together, and like not only did they make it on the independent level, they got so good to the point where the WWE couldn't deny them and sign them as a tag team. So. Like, you look at those guys, and they are a prime example of, like, how two guys can be thrown together and make things work.
Absolutely. And you know what, you're right. Credit where credit's due. You guys proved me wrong on my own show, so I'm never going to have you back now. So that's you guys have ruined everything. No, but gentlemen, I want to take the time out to say thank you so much for being episode 98 on Straight Talk. And I also want to officially let you know now that you are officially members of the Straight Talk family. Anytime you guys want to get together again, you got time to kill, you want to shoot the shit, just message me and say, hey, George, let's do another one. I would absolutely love to have you guys back on the show. Hopefully one day I can get you down to Brampton so we can actually record one in the studio instead of not over Skype because that would be great just to shoot the shit with wrestling. And it would be awesome. It would be fantastic. I think you guys are a great tag team. You're up and coming. You're strong. You're going to get those crossbody titles, fingers crossed. And I think the sky's the limit for you guys. And one day I honestly truly hope to see you on my television because I can say, hey, I interviewed those guys. Now I can call you and say, hey guys, can I get free tickets? Because it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
that sounds great. I would love to get down there now that I got a car recently. It'd be a lot easier to do than it would have been a couple months ago. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Hey man, the door is always open. I know a lot of people don't like driving to Brampton, but you can come on through. I appreciate that.
It's kind of funny that he plugged the car because really quickly before we go, we kind of put a little promotional image out saying something about an Empire Excursion, just kind of to give the rundown of that. We just got our car, we've got passports, we're willing to travel, we're willing to promote shows, we're willing to do whatever we can to possibly get a spot.
Usually, on top of that, usually every show that we're on, every match, we try to film a promo for us, a video promo. And not to bash on anybody, but sometimes it seems like there's not as much of that going around than there should be.
No, you're
people don't get that at all. And that's one thing as a tag team that we pride ourselves on is promotional stuff, promotional material, whether it be images, whether it be video, whether it be, just putting a tweet or a Facebook message out. It's like, there's not enough promotion towards shows that people are on, and we pride ourselves on that. So we want to travel, man. If there's anybody that's listening to this that wants to bring us wherever the hell you're running a show, as long as we can make it, and as long as we can figure out the dates, we would love to make it happen.
Well, let's go ahead there, boys. Let's shout out the socials so people can know where to find you.
I was going to say, on top of that, with the promotional stuff that we just put out for our travel availability, we also put out a thing for what teams we're looking to have dream matches for in the near future. So there's that as well. Hopefully, with us traveling around, we'll be able to knock some of those off the list. But
just to kind of put those teams out there too. I mean, I have the screenshot right in front of me. We've got Sabotage, which is a team from the Maritimes that we're very big on. We've been watching a lot of their stuff, and honestly, we think they're very much like what we're doing. So I'd love to tear it up with those guys if the opportunity popped up. The Carnies, Nick Iggy, Kerry Awful, those guys are incredible, big inspirations on what we're doing today.
And huge fans of them since the beginning of our teaming together, even before that. So
that would be awesome. You've got either Brent Banks and Tarek, known as the Steady Ballers, part of the Pillars, or you've got the BCW Tag Team Champions, Brent Banks and Aiden Prince. We'd love to tear it up with eventually. Tabernacle, the team, literally one of the best unsigned teams in Canada. Matthew St. Jacques, Thomas Dubois, those guys we'd love to be in a ring with. C4, the team of Chip Chambers and Kobe Christ. We'd love to be in the ring with those guys. Butcher and the Blade, and Andy Williams. Again, would love to be in the ring with those guys. And last but not least, a team we've brought up quite a few times during this interview, and that's the North, Josh Alexander and Ethan Page. If we could ever make those matchups happen, we'd love to. Contact us on our social medias at Empire Tag Team. That's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Or you can contact myself on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Matthew Grant. First A is a 4.
My social media all around is at 4Kirk4.
That's all those tag team matches that you mentioned right now. I just got a whole sentence to say, and it's shut up and take my money. Just tell me where they are. Tell me when they'll be there, and I will definitely come down and support. Again, guys, thank you so much for taking the time out. Go enjoy your evenings with your girlfriends. Tell them I said hello. Their new favorite podcaster says hello. I air episodes every Friday, and I'm sure all 4 of you will now be listening to me religiously, and I appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
100%, man. Thank you very much for having us.
All right, guys, enjoy your evening. And
for sure.
All right, and we will talk again soon. I'm actually going to be in Kitchener on Friday, so I'll catch up with you guys when the episode drops.
Hell yeah, man. Take care.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Well, that was just an epic, amazing interview. That, again, was Empire Tag Team. That was my first tag team interview. I love those guys. They're fantastic. They're up-and-comers. Like they said, follow them on their socials. They are going to be a team to watch in the next upcoming few years. So definitely get at them. And hey, that's it. Episode 98, wrap in the can. This was so much fun. Episode 99 airs next week. I want to tell you who it is. Oh, but you're never going to find out. You have to wait until I drop it on the socials. So thank you guys so much. As always, I'm your host, George Mackay. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. Peace.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next week for another episode on Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and iHeartRadio. Also follow us on Facebook at Straight Talk Wrestling, on Instagram at Straight Talk Wrestling, and on Twitter at _Straight Talk. And for all our merchandise, you can search us on ProWrestlingTees.com.